Hey everyone, welcome back to the Good Firms Leaders Roundtable podcast. I'm your host Suhana Bhattacharya, and in every episode, I sit down with business owners to talk about different aspects of business and technology. Now, I realize that we haven't talked about something related to the field of business for a very long time because we have covered different topics of technology, but it's been quite long. We actually talked about leadership and something which is very crucial in the business role. And I think who's better than someone to talk about this than the person who himself has been a result oriented marketing and sales leader. So I'm talking about Daniyal Vadsariya. He has over half a decade of experience in expanding brands, helping them drive growth. So without much further ado, why don't I just let him do the talking? So, Daniel, thank you so much for coming on to our podcast today. Would you mind telling our audience more about you and your work experience?
Thank you for having me today. It's a great pleasure to be sharing the podcast with you. So, again, for to all the listeners, myself, as Sahana has introduced, she has done it beautifully. So, basically, I've been in software development industry and advertisement agency for almost a decade now, and I have managed teams with different crucial aspects. There are certain goals of companies that we have to achieve, and there are different factors to it as well. So every task has different critical issues that we have to solve, overcome, and deliver what we're expected of. So thank you for having me, and that's about it.
Okay, so today we are here to talk about the art of leadership. Now, I know that this has been talked about a lot. So, we want to specifically get into talking about how to build and inspire high performance teams. And I think this is the perfect conversation to have with you, Daniel. Before I could get more into the detail about leadership and building teams, high performance teams. So, what is your favorite leadership quote and who do you admire as a leader the most and why?
So my favorite quote is from Dale, and it goes, "You never achieve real success unless you like what you're doing." So it's very important to really love what you're doing. You have to be passionate about it. If you have the passion, you can go a long, long way. But again, if it's just for the sake of money, because again, a lot of people choose careers based on if the packages are good or if the market is good, if it's less competitive. But again, if you follow your passion, your work doesn't feel work anymore.
That's very impressive. And another quote that currently I'm seeing that is on your LinkedIn profile as well. And no, we were not stalking. We were just, collecting information and preparing ourselves for this podcast. So I can see that you say that the only place where success comes before work is in the dictionary. And like, where did you come across that and how do you relate to it?
All right. So, we were actually having a discussion in a group meeting, and it was all about success, brand success, this, that. So, everyone was sharing their ideas, and I just came up with it because I might have heard it somewhere or read it somewhere. And I just, said it out loud, and everyone stopped for a moment. And then they were like, all right, you got a point. So, we all will shut up, and then you start talking. You tell us what needs to be done. So that was like an icebreaker in a meeting because again we were meeting for the first time with our brand managers and stuff. So it was a good icebreaker.
Okay, okay. That's great. I think we'll have a lot of such lines in our podcast that, people can really pick up or really relate to. So, can you please tell our audience a little bit about what we are actually talking about? That is high performance teams and like what it actually means and what difference is there in the process of making one?
All right. So I'll first off address high performance, and then I jump on to the teams. So when you speak of performance, our ultimate aim is to achieve the goal that we have at hand. Now, how do we achieve the goal? Is if there's just one person running the show, there are certain aspects which you cannot attend to being a single person, right? So you have to delegate, and when you delegate you need to have the right set and skill set of people to complete that task and achieve the goal. So when you speak of high performance, first things that comes to your mind is achieving the company's goal or the short-term goal, whatever you're working on. When you create a team, you need to make sure all the facets that you will need to complete or achieve that goal. So, for example, if I'm running a social media campaign, for me, my ideal team would be a content writer. And again, with the content writer, there has to be a touch of copywriter as well because it's social media campaigns. So the taglines needs to be catchy and stuff. So
Mm.
copywriter, then you need a designer, then you need a social media manager, and now there are two aspects to it. It's organic as well as the paid side of it. So you need someone who has a skill set of paid experience as well. And then you also need someone who can really get into the audience, engage with them. So it could be a PR kind of person who could get under the skin of people and then start engagements. So
Mm.
just giving you with one example, there could be different goals for the company. So for high performance team, you always need to break down your goal into sets of tasks. Now, based on those tasks, you need to identify what skill sets do we need to complete this task. Based off that skill set, you then create your job description. And based off that job description, you start hunting for the right people in the market.
Right. And I really like how you said that, breaking down tasks into different steps, because I think that also takes the stress out if you're leading the social media campaign and makes it a lot less overwhelming than it was before, right?
Exactly. And, as I said, one person doing everything is like jack of all, master of none, as we have heard so many times. So it's always good to delegate. A lot of people, especially in the leadership, are very, very afraid of delegating because, when you're delegating, you're just delegating the task. The ownership
Mm.
remains to yourself. So people are actually afraid to take ownership for someone else's work. But you should never shy off of that because when you delegate, you actually have to just monitor and guide them instead of doing everything on your own. But if you're good at monitoring and assessment and guiding them, mentoring them, then it's way easier for you because I've been doing this entire career and I've been very successful with this. So I'm grateful for the leaders that I have worked with, learned from them a lot, and then I'm continuing to pass that on to my team as well.
So, what are some effective selection or onboarding strategies that you use while creating a team? Like, you have been part of various such teams and you currently now also lead a lot of people at Codement as well. So, what are some onboarding strategies that you look out for while creating a team?
So I'll be very honest with you. I've told you how to create and come to the part where you have your JD ready, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Now, there is no magic or magic spell that you can, just do it and then you find the right resources. So
Mm.
the hardcore aspect of creating a high performance team is to do the first aspect first, which is breaking down your goal into task and task into skill set requires. Based on those skill set, you create your job description and everything else remains the same. But what I see in my perfect candidate for creating my high performance team is that they are driven by passion.
Mm.
Whatever the JD is, whatever they're doing, they should be passionate about it. So
Mm.
you must have experienced when someone loves what they do and when they start talking about it, you see a glow in their eyes. It's
True, true.
different.
Mm.
True. You see a smile on their face, their
Mm.
body language changes. They're not shy anymore because
Mm.
they know what they're talking about. So you have to look closely and you have to actually understand if they are passionate about it because I can say I'm passionate about it, but my body language should say the same. So that is something that you need to have a close eye on,
Mm.
and everything else remains the same. So just the normal things, behavioral and skill set assessment. Again,
Mm.
diversity is something that always should be there because when you don't work with diversity and inclusion, you actually end up with creating lobbies within the company. And
Mm.
you might not even know it, but it naturally happens because when you work with a certain kind of people that you call your people, then it's a certain biasness that comes with it. So I would always see my team to be very diverse and inclusive.
You did talk about passion here. So, if I had to ask you, like, how did you find your passion of working in sales and marketing, working and now being a sales and marketing leader. So, how did you find that passion, and what was that moment when you know that you want to do just this and not something else? If you had to, take some years down the memory lane, what was that thing that, confirmed that this is your passion?
All right. So the answer to this would be a very lengthy one, but I'll make it short and try to make it short as much as I can. You know, initially, when I was young, I never wanted to be a marketer. I always wanted to be a pilot. I'll be very honest with you, all of you listeners. I wanted to be a pilot, but
Uh-huh.
I got my bad eyesight and I failed the medical exam. So
Uh-huh.
I couldn't pursue it. I was so much heartbroken because this had been my dream for about 12, 13, more than that years. And I've always been so passionate about being a pilot, and I still do. But I'll try if I can, complete my flying hours and maybe get a private license. Then I was so heartbroken. But then where I lived, a lot of people were into media sciences, and I saw them working, with the creative ideas, and so I started basically helping them. And that's when I thought, if not pilot, then marketer is the way that I want to be. And then I looked through different programs, different universities, and then I found the right one, which was bachelor's in media sciences, majors in advertising. So advertising is something that I had a spark for. So I started my career with advertisement agencies, then jumped onto the brand management roles, and then I
Mm,
ended up as a marketeer, head of marketing at Codment. So
mm,
it was a quite a rocky journey initially, but then
mm,
when I found what I needed to do, I gave my 200%, and I still do. Even being the head of marketing, I do not shy off of getting my sleeves up and getting into the business myself, getting the task done with the team. So, and whenever I do it, I feel more motivated, because when I do the work myself, it's a different feeling.
right. And thank you so much for sharing that. And I really appreciate you sharing that here on this platform. So, moving on to the next question, I believe that motivation plays a big role in performance. So, can you give some key insights on like key motivators and how to effectively use those motivators to keep the team motivated, maybe for short term or over the long term?
So the first thing and the foremost is to make sure that you give them a competitive package, all right, which have them mentally free from their kitchen. When I say kitchen free, I mean their household expenses should be met based on their job role. You give them market competitive salaries so that they're satisfied with what they're getting, the compensation. So they'd be focusing 100% on the work instead of finding jobs or looking for other opportunities. So that's the first thing. The second aspect, which is a very key motivator and often ignored, that is skill development. There are tasks given to them, and we are just expecting them to deliver the task and achieve certain targets and this and that. But we never see where they lack, and we actually put in our efforts to help them improve. Because when you do that, speaking from a team player's perspective, you'd feel that you are being valued. Because if everyone talks high about what you do good, it's good, but what you are actually scared of is your weak areas. But when someone takes that initiatives and improves that weak area of yours and make it a strong part, that's where the employee feels highly motivated. So within my team, I make sure that I do monitor and assess their performances. Now, their good areas, yes, that's the perfect part for them. But for me, what I look closely is where they get weak. And I do one on one trainings. I tend to do sometimes group sessions as well, some group activities to make sure that they are highly motivated. And their skill set is constantly being developed. So you incentivize them and you see how they work exceptionally well.
Right. I really like how you talked about both the points and the monetary consideration and also the skill development or the one-on-one meetings with your team members to know what is wrong. So it's important, I think, for leaders to know that both of these things are important, right?
Exactly, exactly. Again, as I said, that, being in the corporate world, it gets so monotonous at times that leaders actually forget what they felt like when they were subordinates. So I always say that you stay grounded and you do not miss out the feelings that you had when you were a subordinate to someone. So you need to make sure that you be a person who you wanted to be a leader for you. So you become that person for your subordinates now when you are a team leader.
Wow, I think that's a good piece of information. So, like, we've all been through different kinds of articles which actually prove that diverse teams are better. In fact, one that I'm looking at right now says that diverse team makes better decisions 66% of the time. But still, I believe that majority of women do not make up for leadership roles in the organization, and that's a very sad thing. So, why is that so? And how can current leaders make it easier for women to climb the corporate ladder and set an example for new, young female workforce who is currently joining the corporate world?
This is a very good point. I've served for about 10 years now within different industries and different businesses. But what I have seen so far is that short sightedness and assumptions that we work with. So our leaders basically, what the think is that women are not career focused. They are not career oriented. Maybe they get married, they might have a child. So they would have to, dedicate their parts of life to their personal life more than they could serve to the business. Again, in the managerial and the leadership roles, what we see most is men. And what we see in them is that they don't have work life balance. And this is something which is the worst thing that I've seen in my life, because leadership does not mean that you give your life to the company. It's just that you do your job at best. You have your work life balance, and then you can easily achieve both the worlds. All right. But again, coming back to your question, is that our leaders, again, first off, they are too into their thoughts. They are, again, very scared and hesitant to give women that position, the managerial levels, the leadership roles, again, for the reason I said. And to some extent, women of they question themselves if they deserve the role. So I would highly say that the women out there do not think that, if they could do it, anyone can do it. Any one of you can do it. So just believe in yourself. And again, prove by example. What I see why women don't get managerial role or leadership roles is that, they don't lead by example. They should always lead by example and do things that your leadership wants. Because again, you need to align with the company's goal, but at the same time, you need to, have your strong position that you are an asset, not a liability. So a lot of leaders out there, they think that women in the team are liability and they are short-term asset to the company. So you have to set your expectations for your leadership very correctly, that you are not a short-term asset, you are a long-term asset. You can take up the managerial role, you can be a leader, and always prove by an example. So whenever I've seen managers comparing male and female, male managers tend to have a better relationship with their teams. Why? Because they spend more time with the team, to be very honest, outside the workplace as well. Women should do the same because it's always work life balance. So you make sure that you hit all the right spots. So you have a good chemistry with the team, which actually shows when you give a certain task, your team would take it as accountability for themselves as well. And they would work as a team to achieve that goal.
Right. So, I think you work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and one common thing which many big businesses or even small businesses come across is they find it hard to scale up once they get a continuous inflow of clients. So, what are some of the advice that you can give for new entrepreneurs and startups who want to scale up without losing their heads? Because when you're trying to scale up, you're trying to hire people, you're even trying to maybe get more funding and maybe back that client and maintain customer relationship. So there's a lot going on, right? So what is that advice that you can give to new entrepreneurs that can help them scale better?
So the first thing that I would address is break the myopia and stop being short-sightedness. Be adaptable to the change and make use of everything that the world throws at you, being the digital advancements or skill set development. With the advancements of AI, a lot of things can be automated. So the first thing that I would advise all the entrepreneurs is to stop overthinking and get to the business, because a lot of things can be done and just it's one time effort. You just automate it and then you have to monitor and optimize. So that's the only thing that you have to take care of. So make use of AI tools that you have to make your life easier. Then, being an entrepreneur, a common mistake that I see is that they want to be master of everything. It's not possible. It's not humanly possible. So always delegate. Find the right people, find the right team, and delegate. So instead of being in charge of everything, you create team leaders and then you expect them to align with your goal and work together to make that achieved. So find the right team for yourself, find the capable individuals who you think align with your perspective, and then you empower them with delegation. You give them the accountability as well. So when you give someone accountability, they think that they are being valued, and when they think they are being valued, they would automatically convert into high performing individuals. And if they convert into high performance individuals, their team would be converted into a high performance team. So coming back to the first thing, what entrepreneurs should do is, they should always, first off, adapt to the new advancements. Again, delegation, find the right team for themselves. And again, once they have find the right team, do not shy of motivating them. Please, listeners. It's very important when you find the right team, do not take it for granted. It's not a God gift. So you have to, put in some efforts. It's a give and take relationship. So make sure that your team is well motivated, and aligning with the goal is one thing, but you have to make them feel appreciated and being valued. So that's the three things that you have to take care of. Being an entrepreneur, it will help you grow immensely in a very short time if you do this.
Mm. And the thing that you mentioned, that hiring is difficult and finding the best team or the people who are just right for the business takes a lot of trial and errors. And every entrepreneur must go through it. There's no doubt, because I've heard a lot of business owners talk about this on the internet as well. So, could you suggest some resources or practices that upcoming entrepreneurs or new leaders can explore to enhance their leadership abilities?
See, when you speak of leadership, and I'll be very honest with you, a lot of motivation speakers, public speakers would give you so many tips, or tell you, you do this, you do that, you change your routine, you wake up at 5 o'clock, do yoga, do this, do that. And I'll be very honest, in the lives that we are in, we are always on the go. So
Mm,
we might not find the right time to do all of those things, but the first and foremost thing is for them to become a good leader. As I keep saying again and again and again, as you said, which is a very right point, that finding the perfect team for yourself is a matter of too many trial and errors, but you
mm,
have to go through it. So you have to be persistent, because everything needs persistence. So you will find some people who would be a perfect match, but they won't stick with you for long. So you always have to make sure that if and when you find the right people, you make sure that your team is learning from them enough so that when that person leaves, you have a replacement who is again good enough to
mm,
fill in that gap. So always make sure that you're continuously training the team. So whenever you find a good resource, make sure that you have a process where the skills are being developed of other in the team as well, so that you're always prepared if anyone leaves, because it's very natural. No one gives their entire lifetime to one company, because they would
mm,
also want to move forward. So when that happens, company usually takes a hit. And that is why, because they have never thought of creating leaders one after the other. So if
Mm,
one goes, the other one takes their place. The second aspect, and again, this would be to increase the ability of their leadership, and that would be creating a solid business plan. Because if I tell you, so Hannah, you just have to run, where would you run? You have no direction. So you'd be just
mm,
running. I'll tell you, so Hannah, you need to run to the building right in front of you, and you need to get there as fast as you can. Now you have a goal, all right? So now you know where to go. So when you have a business plan, you actually know the targets,
mm,
where what you need to target. So you have to set your goals. You need to know the right target audience and the strategies for the growth. Now I'll break it down further. I say, so Hannah, you have to run to the building right in front of you. You get that because you can run, right? But
mm,
if you don't know how to swim, and I say, so Hannah, you have to swim all the way there to that
mm.
island that you see, but you are
Oh my
incapable of
God.
that.
Yeah.
You get my point. So
Mm,
you
yeah.
have to find the right team for every task. So for swimming task, I need a swimmer. For running task, I need a runner. So you have to find that right team, and then you have to identify your right audience. Because if I'm gonna sell a comb to a bald, that's not the right audience for me, is it? So I'll always need to find the right audience. And then the strategies for growth is that finding the right team. And then when you find that right team, now I'll take you all the way backwards to my starting point. Now, strategies for growth. You find the right skill, you find the right people for your job. You
Mm.
have given them a JD. Based off their JD, they have their skill set. Based off their skill set, they would achieve your task. And once they achieve their task, you naturally come closer to your company goals. In the long run, you achieve your company goals. So you have your high performance team.
I think that is some really great information that we had today on the podcast. And this brings us to the end of the conversation. Thank you so much, Daniel, for sharing your experience, how you went from wanting to become a pilot to becoming a chief marketing officer today at Codment. And I personally, along with our audience, learned a lot from this conversation because just like how we said that, this will have a lot of those remarkable one liners which many people will relate to. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm just glad to have this conversation with you. This,
Likewise.
yeah,
Likewise.
and this podcast is available on Spotify, Google Podcast, and Amazon Music. So wherever you're listening to us, please add us on your favorites and follow us so that we can bring in more interesting conversations like this. Thank you so much.